It's just, no one ever tells you the cost of doing good. It's really fun we're messing with a criminal enterprise. We're dealing with very bad people. And there's one thing I've learned about bad people is that they very rarely, if ever, take responsibility for what they do. And they will always justify their behavior. I'm sure you know better than anybody dealing with the people that you've dealt with, the reasons that people justify their behavior. And so, it's just, I guess, long story short, it's just safer for me because of the work that I do to be not in Colombia at the current time.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Game of Crimes with Murph in the Morning. Thank you so much for coming back every week. I appreciate you folks continuing to support the show here. Just having a blast. I hope you all had a great Christmas and you're going to have a prosperous 2026. And when I say prosperous, I'm talking like, I don't know, Powerball prosperous. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? Can you imagine have won $1.6 billion? I think if I'd won that, I'm not sure I'd be here talking to you, but I like to think that I would. But anyway, we all have dreams, right? But truly, welcome back. Thank you for continuing to support us here. And if you folks remember, last year we talked about this. January is the National Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And it's actually international, but for whatever reason, we call it the National Month here in the United States. And last year, one of my guests was a gentleman named Tyler Schwab. Well, guess what? Tyler is our guest here again on Game of Crimes this week. This is his fourth appearance here on the Game of Crimes. And that's how important this topic is to me and the other people that support me here on Game of Crimes, that we're going to continue to try and bring awareness to this problem because it's just monumental and it's not getting any better. And I was so impressed with Tyler when I first met him, and I've since then gotten to meet him in person, that I like to bring him on every 6 months just so we can catch up on what Libertas is doing. I've had the honor of meeting some of the former victims. I actually got to represent Libertas with some other individuals at the United Nations in Vienna, Austria, a few months ago, back in October. It's just amazing what these people are doing. We're going to talk about Tyler and why he's not in Colombia, where his office is. And if you've heard the previous episodes, you know why he's not there, and it's not getting any better for him. But we'll get into that. So Tyler, hey bro, welcome back to Game of Crimes.
Man, Steve, thanks for having me. And I know I've said thanks beforehand, but thanks again for flying out to Austria and representing Libertas out in the United Nations. Yeah, it was a dream come true seeing you wear Libertas gear out there in Vienna. So thanks again for doing that.
Oh, I was proud to do it, man. And it's and actually for Christmas, we went up to Atlanta and it was chilly up there and it wasn't too bad. But I was rocking that Libertas jacket up there as well. So I'm proud to wear your trademark.
Thanks, my man.
It's an honor.
Thank you.
And just quickly, everybody, Libertas International is a nonprofit that rescues human trafficking victims. They're based out of Medellín, Colombia, but it's not just in Colombia. They work in other countries as well. But not only do they help rescue these victims, they provide support afterwards to help these victims of the crime get reestablished. The sad thing is most of their victims are children. So we're talking about child exploitation. If you've seen the previous interviews, I had to stop one because I teared up and started crying. I couldn't. It's just heart wrenching. And if it doesn't touch your heart, you're a cold son of a gun. I'll tell you what. But if you want to see Tyler's previous episodes, check out episode 154, which was in July of 24. Number 2 was episode 178, which was January of 2025. His third interview was episode 211, which was August of 25. I was a little behind on that, but it's because I got to interview him in person with professional recording equipment in San Diego that I didn't know how to edit. So I had a big learning curve after that one. So that's why it came out in August. And here we are again at January 26th. And you know what, Tyler, as long as you will continue to come back, brother, I will have you back every 6 months to talk about what you're up to.
Oh, I'd love to, Steve. I'd love to, I'd love to talk about the mission, the stuff it's accomplishing. And, just it keeps growing. It keeps doing what it's supposed to do. Seeing you in Vienna, obviously, was just a culmination of so many different things, of like the different stories that led to that moment. And so as long as you'll keep having me on where I can come and talk about it, I'm happy to come back.
Excellent, brother. Excellent. I said during our very first interview, and I still got this in my notes, anyone who would enslave another human being, especially children, you're the lowest of the low in this entire world. I mean, there's no saying that the lowest thing on this earth is whale shit on the bottom of the ocean. You're lower than that if you're involved in this. No, I just, whew. Well, we're going to get into all this, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that conference at the United Nations in Vienna, because I wasn't real happy with what I saw there either. But I didn't see a lot of progress being made. But like we do before, and we try to do every week, is we have our small town police blotter. Tyler's familiar with that. I surprised him this morning, sent him one and out of Wyoming, and he didn't hesitate. So our disclaimer is, this is a show about crime. We talk about bad people. We talk about bad people doing bad things to good people. We take the show very serious, especially today's topic, but we're trying to keep it a little bit lighthearted. And the stories we're going to tell today aren't quite like some of the stories we've heard, but we don't want to miss an opportunity to have a laugh at the expense of some of the stupid things that people do out there. So, Tyler, if you would, brother, run with your story.
Yeah. So, huge crime wave. Park has suspect in thefts. When the number of missing shoes at Grand Teton National Park campground in Wyoming hit 19, officials could no longer ignore the crime wave. They identified a animal of interest and sought the public's help. Up went the posters labeled "Wanted for Grand Theft Footwear" and showing an artist sketch of the prime suspect, a fox with a tennis shoe in its mouth. The signs also asked campers to outwit the fox by storing their shoes in a tent or a vehicle. Park officials also turned to social media. What does a fox do with shoes? We still don't know. A July 10th Instagram post reads, maybe it's a toy, maybe it's a nesting material, maybe it's fashion. As the thefts add up, the post listed the toll at 32 shoes. Park officials suspect some campers were guilty of entrapment, leaving shoes out so they could see the fox in action. Still, authorities warn that the issue is a serious one. When wild animals become used to being around people and their food, they could eventually need to be relocated or euthanized. The more time this fox spends around humans, the Instagram post says, the more dangerous things get for the fox. I got to tell you, the fox is surprising to me. I thought it would be a raccoon.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, man, when I was looking for a criminal story out of Wyoming, today, that's the best I could come up with. I mean, I know there's crime out there, but that sounds like a fairly safe state to live in.
Yeah, I think because everybody's packing. And like in Grand Teton, it's those tourists with the shoes. I think they do need to be messed with a little bit, because every year a tourist tries to take a selfie with a bison and someone gets what's the word? Not stabbed with a horn. What's the word, Steve? Like they get gored by a bison. They try to take a selfie, or they complain that the bears aren't doing tricks, and it's like, these are wild animals, So maybe it's the animal's way of kind of like messing back with the tourists that come and expect them to behave like zoo animals. So either that or everybody's packing, one of the two.
That's what we call idiots.
That's awesome.
Leave the foxes alone, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you folks know I'm in Florida, so we're going to go with a couple of short stories about Florida criminals here today. The first is, after getting into a dispute with his neighbor, a guy from Florida tossed a Molotov cocktail at his neighbor's trailer house. Wow. I mean, that's pretty serious stuff.
Oh, my gosh.
But you know what? Right then, the wind shifted and sent embers onto the guy's own trailer. But luckily for him, he was arrested and taken to jail because his trailer burned down. Only in Florida.
Oh, my gosh.
Crazy, isn't it? And then you got these guys who, 3 guys also from Florida, they thought it was their lucky day when they broke into a house and they found 3 jars of what they thought was cocaine. Well, I guess they're going to have a party, right? And they took it home and snorted it, but it really didn't do anything for them. Then they learned the jars were actually urns, and they snorted the cremated remains of the victim's husband and their 2 dogs. That's just so appropriate.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh man, Florida here. I tell you what, brother, it's hilarious what goes on here.
Dude, that is crazy.
And I got to read one more to you. My wife, this is a Christmas story, and I don't know who the author is. I like to say it's people in my neighborhood, but I'm not sure where this came from. But this is what somebody put out on social media. It starts out and it says, "I don't mean to be a Grinch. However, to those of you who are placing Christmas lights and decorations in your yards, would you please avoid anything that has red and blue flashing lights together? Every time I come around the corner, I think it's the police. I have to brake hard, toss my margarita out the window, fasten my seatbelt, throw my phone on the floor, turn the radio down, shove the gun under the seat." And that's all I'm trying to drive. It's just too much drama, even for Christmas. Thank you for your cooperation and understanding. I just thought that was appropriate for small town police blotter.
Jeez. That happened in Florida too, that last one?
I don't know. I think it came through our neighborhood website here. So who knows? It's probably started somewhere else in the United States, but it certainly fits in Florida. I'll be honest with you.
Florida's crazy, man.
Hey, too, I wanted to, before we get started talking here, I wanted to tell you about or show you my new shirt here. I'm rocking this new shirt I just got. This was sent to me I got hooked up with the Southern California Gang Conference, and Tyler was actually out there this past year. That's where we finally got to meet in person. And those guys take care of me. They always give me nice shirts, but I said, I need one for Game of Crimes. And so they hooked me up with LA Police Gear, and you can find them at lapolicegear.org. The DEA Narcos is of course our speaking shirt, and then the podcast, Game of Crimes podcast. But fellas, you did such a phenomenal job. Just wanted to give you a shout out here on the show. And thank you so much for sending me the shirts. Again, that's lapolicegear.org. It's founded by several LA police officers out there. So if you're interested in things like this, check them out online. All right. So let's get into our conversation now with Tyler, all the nonsense aside. I told you a little bit about how we met and that we finally got to meet in person in San Diego this past year in May. And during that event, Tyler had brought one of the former victims that they had rescued to the event. So I got to meet the young lady in person. Just so impressive to hear her story, to have an opportunity to sit down with these folks and share a meal and just let her know. I wanted to come across to her that we honest people here in the United States support their plight, and we want to do everything we can to rescue them. But here's the bottom line to that story: is she actually motivated me more than I ever would motivate her. She made a T-shirt and gave it to me.
That's right.
And you guys know now I love my free T-shirts, but this one was just really special. That both of my daughters are adopted from Colombia. One's from Bogota, one's from Medellín. And either one of them could have been a victim. They could have ended up as street children. They could have been a victim of child exploitation and human trafficking. So that's why there's just a little special place in my heart and Connie's heart as well for the victims in Colombia. But that also goes for all human trafficking victims around the world. So, and I can't talk about that too much, Tyler, because I might start tearing up again.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys think I'm a crusty old fart here, but I do have a tender side every once in a while. Let's see here. So you are the founder of an organization called Libertas International that you started in 2013. Is that right, Tyler?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, 2013, I believe, is when we started.
Now, here we are recording this in January of 2026. Still going strong, getting bigger and stronger every day. Can you just, in a nutshell, give us the Reader's Digest version of it, and tell us how old you were when you started this, because I think that's remarkable. But how did you come up with this idea to create Libertas? Yeah,
that's a good question. I was 23 when I started, I believe. And I just, I'm sure a lot of your listeners, they're just so impacted when you hear about modern day slavery and exploitation and all these different things that, how do you not do something? Just do something. And so what I did is I just sold all my stuff that was worth anything, like an Xbox 360 or my mattress or anything that had any kind of value in the double digits. And bought a plane ticket to the Dominican Republic and just talked with victims, talked with survivors, and tried to find out how you end up in this place and what needs to happen so that you can leave this situation. And so that's what we've done. We've worked in, I mean, I've traveled to, I think 35 different countries or something like that. I've met survivors from all over the world. Colombia specifically, a lot of our work happens in Colombia. And, I think the more we grow, I think the more I'm learning to appreciate just like the person-centered approach, to where the numbers are great. Like the people we rescued, like those numbers are great. But like you talk about just the one, and I might get like a little religious in this episode, because I've been thinking a lot about God and like the purpose of these stories, and, the new year, trying to like set new goals for myself, and like just the people that are put in the path to like make things happen. And like you talk about this girl that you met in San Diego. I was thinking about this a lot, because that was her first time in San Diego after that experience since they were let into the United States after fleeing Colombia because of the violence, because of the traffickers, because of the death threats and all these different things. And her daughter was actually telling me this story of the angels that were put in her path to where they could survive that experience in San Diego. Because, how it worked in the last administration is that they were let into the country to ask for asylum, but you got no help. You're just here, and you're here with the clothes on your back. And so they had no money, they had no nothing, and they couldn't call me because their self-service went down the second they crossed the border, right? Because they're no longer using a Mexican line, they're using an American line. And so they walked all over San Diego trying to find a Burger King that had free Wi-Fi. They had one. They found one. They called me. They're like, "Hey, we're here. We need you to come get us." And I'm, in a different state. And so I had to load my car and get ready to go pick them up and try to decide what to do with them. But they were there vulnerable for at least 24 hours in the cold, because this was November in San Diego, can get cold too. There's predators in San Diego too. Hopefully they can find someone that speaks English. And just, talking about just the people that God put in their path for those 24 hours before I could get there, just make sure everything was okay. Like this girl that you're talking about, her daughter was telling me about this couple from Israel that paid for their hotel for a night. So they didn't have to sleep on the street, took them to a Super 8, paid the bill. They spoke English, they spoke Spanish, there's no communication, but these people from Israel knew that something was off in the situation, so they covered the hotel cost for the night. There was a Chinese lady at their hotel that ordered them like pizza and fruit and things like that so that they weren't starving in this 24 hours, so they could eat. While I'm driving 90 miles an hour just trying to get there, and when me and my coworker who came with me, when we arrived, the little girl was like, it was like something out of a movie. Like you show up in like this car and you pick us up, and we're on our, next journey to freedom, which is great. But I had no idea, like all these people that like were put in the path of them to like make sure they were taken care of, like in San Diego before I could get there. And so when we went back to San Diego with you to meet you and like know that all the good that you've done, and to meet all these different people, like that gang conference for both the women that came with me was so healing, because it was just a place full of good men. They were there to figure out how to better protect the world that we live in. Like for both those women that were with me, it was so healing. And I think about that a lot. That's why I have like the plaque they gave me like up here, like on the screen, and just how like as the organization grows, like how important like those personal stories for each specific individual are. And like these stories that I don't even know about, of the people that God is placing in these people's lives that I will never know, I'll never meet. But I'll end this story is this little girl I was talking with the other day. She tried to take her life a year ago because of what had happened at the border and in San Diego, and the stuff that went on with her mom and stuff. And now she's much better. She's much more reflective. And she's like, if I could talk to that Israeli couple like in heaven and thank them for like what they did. Excuse me. Sorry, Steve.
That's all right, man. No.
Oh, I don't usually cry. God, she's like, she's not, this little girl, like she's 14, 15. She's not super religious, or at least she claims not to be, because it's not cool, But she was like, if one day I go to heaven, I can thank this Israeli couple who I don't even know their names for buying us a hotel room for that one night until you could get there. She's like they have no idea like how much that meant to us. And I didn't either. So just like people like you, people that listen to this podcast, like people like that God is placing all over the world, like not even involved with Libertas, but just that God is working in their hearts and their souls and their whatever to help them alleviate the burden of someone that's important to someone else. I love. And so that's why that San Diego trip and then that conference at San Diego with you, with them, with those two girls was so impactful to me personally.
And we're talking about miracles here. You know, there is no human explanation as to why things worked out the way they did. I don't know how to explain it. And for some of those that might be listening, and maybe not, I don't know, but you know, you may not believe in God. You might say, well, wait a minute, why did God put him in that position to start with? I don't know. Nobody on earth knows. We don't have that kind of wisdom here. But the fact that he places angels out there to take care of things as they go along, whether that's Tyler helping with the rescue, whether that's the Colombian National Police that Tyler worked with, or the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, which he also worked with. Their story is just, it's heartbreaking because they had to make it all the way from Colombia to the Mexican-U.S. border at a time when it was tough to get into the United States. And then these people step up and help them just simply out of the goodness of their heart, not expecting anything in return. How can you say that's not an angel? You know, things happen for reasons. I don't believe in coincidence and I don't believe in luck. I think that everything happens for a reason. So, brother, I'm amazed I'm not tearing up with you. I'm pretty close here.
It's my turn to tear up. No, and I think this date has me all weird too. Cause like, I'll go back to that little girl specifically. Like she tried to take her own life last year. And like, so in 2024, I had this really good plate of shrimp. And I was like, God, this is good shrimp, man. This is good shrimp. And I'm not a huge like shrimp guy, but this girl is a big shrimp girl. And so I texted their family and I was like, hey, like, I just want to start the new year right. I had this really good place I had this really good shrimp at Longhorn Steakhouse, on the 31st of December. Let's go again, New Year's Day. I had it like in my mind. I was like, I'm going to text them and invite them. But then I was like, nah, they probably got stuff going on or whatever. And it was just like this annoyance, you know, it was like, hey, don't forget to invite them to shrimp. Don't forget to invite them to shrimp. And it wouldn't go away. And so I was like, okay, well, it was just in my head. So, you know, just get out of my head. I sent him a text and I was like, hey, let's go get shrimp. And this girl answers and she's like, yeah, I'd love to go get shrimp on the New Year's Day. And so I go and pick her up, and just like the second that I see her, I just know that something has happened or something is happening or something has happened. So, you know, we step outside of her apartment and she just starts to cry. She was like, when you texted me, like I had a rope from Walmart. I was getting ready to hang myself because I got on this algorithm on TikTok, and the anxiety of just not speaking English and the trauma that happened in Mexico and the trauma that happened in Colombia and all these different things. Like, I just can't take it. And she's like, in your text, it was like, that was what, like, well, at least I'll have a good shrimp before I go. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And so like we had, like, I'm glad that I could like be there for her, like in that moment, just to kind of ground her, let her know, like, hey, let's make some plans here. Like, let's make some plans to where this is your best year ever. And all these different things. Cause I mean, you can't go, like, you're just going to leave me here in this world, like all by myself or whatever. And like, I share that story for two reasons. Like, one, just like, I'm a big believer, like, in the Holy Spirit, in your gut, in your intuition, like whatever. Cause I was just looking to just eat some shrimp with some good company. That's literally all I was doing. I was just being a hungry dude that wanted to do it with somebody else, you know, and God used that desire for good shrimp to intervene at a time to where, like, this girl, like, she had the rope that she had got at Walmart to hang herself. And then, so a couple of days ago, it was New Year's Eve, and we had that shrimp again, and just kind of going over the year. And we checked in every week. We're like, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? Are you better than the first of the year? And obviously, like, teenage kids, like, I mean, you know better than anybody, like just up and down, up and down. They have things going on and stuff, but she told me, she was like, this has been the best year of my life. Like all the places that we've eaten, because we did this, we hatched this plan to like get to know, to visit as many countries as we can, like on this like scratch and sniff map, based on like the ethnic restaurants in the city that we live in. And so we went to like Switzerland and Mongolia and all these different places. And she found a place she really liked that you can cook your own octopus, which I think is disgusting, but she loves it. She loves to like just octopus soup. It's a Mongolian Swiss place. And she had her 15th birthday party. She got to invite all of her friends. She had all these amazing experiences. She got braces for the first time. She got to start normal middle school and like have normal middle school problems with like zits and friends and boys and all these different things. And at the end of the year, she was like, this has been the best year of my life. And compared to like 365 days ago, where she was like, I bought a rope at Walmart to hang myself. Like it's just thankful, you know, she's still here. And the angel stepped up, not just, you know, people from the foundation, but just all these different people, like the churches that have supported her, the community, her friends or teachers, like whatever, all these angels that stepped up and, you know, maybe couldn't save the world, but they could save her day and save her world like in that day. And I'm just thankful.
Brother, and you're one of those angels.
I appreciate that, man. I don't know about that, but I appreciate the compliment.
No, it's, again, things happen for a purpose, man. Can you explain why that thought kept coming back to you? You know, make a call, invite him for shrimp. There's no explanation. You know, if you folks out there listening have another explanation, let me know what it is. I know what I think.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, one thing I want to mention also is that we do here on Game of Crimes take this human trafficking issue and child exploitation very seriously. If you've been listening for a while, you know we've had a number of guests on. And so when I was putting my notes together, Tyler, I started making a list here, and it's about a half page long here. Natasha Herzig, who you got to meet in San Diego, she was a victim when I think she was 18 or 19 years old, right out in San Jose, California. And now she is part of an organization that helps victims of human trafficking herself. I mean, she's found a calling in her life. That was episode 60. And you can look these up. She's episode 60, and then I had her again. We did an update, episode 212. So go check out Natasha. Prior to that, episode 29 was Sherry Foster, who was a former Georgia Bureau of Investigation agent and a DEA agent. Love Sherry and her husband, JP, to death. After she retired from law enforcement, she got a job as a victim advocate in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Georgia, I believe it was, out of Atlanta. So she's been chipping in to help her out where she can. We had Ty Holland on here, a former Seattle cop who is continuing to work in rescuing victims. Jenna Griffith and her husband, Seth Griffith. I'm sorry, Ty was episode 113. Then Jen and Seth Griffith, we had them on back-to-back, episodes 144 and 145. They're both affiliated with Aerial Recovery, which you got to go check them out. It's aerialrecovery.org if you want to find out more about them. We had Heidi Chance on, episode 146, who is a former Phoenix cop that is heavily involved in helping that. That's what she did as a police officer. She's continuing to do that in retirement. Of course, then we had Tyler on a number of times. We had an individual by the name of Chad Melly on. Chad was an Arkansas cop. He got involved in a lot of the investigations on child exploitation and human trafficking. And so this is Tyler's episode is episode 231. Let me make sure I'm getting this right here. I'm getting old, guys. 230. And if you'll wait till episode 232 comes out, Chad is coming on again with one of his colleagues from another part of the world. And that little noise you just heard there was Tyler clapping because he knows who we're talking about here.
Which one is coming on? Which colleague is he bringing on? If I can.
I don't know. I know his first name, Damien.
Dude.
I don't even know his last name.
I don't know his last name either. Yeah, I don't know his last name either. He's that type of guy. But dude, he's the best. He is the best. You guys, you'll love Damien. Damien is one of a kind in the world.
Excellent. So you don't want to miss 2 episodes 2 weeks from now. You want to come back for that one. And then episodes 219 and 220, I had the founder and her husband of Aerial Recovery on here. That was Brittany Turner is the founder and her husband, Jeremy Locke. They actually invited me to be the keynote speaker at their annual fundraiser in Nashville earlier in 2025, late 2025. I keep forgetting we're in a new year now. But the things that they're doing is just phenomenal. And Tyler is right in the mix with all of that. You know, I mentioned about going to the United Nations with the folks at Aerial Recovery. And when I mentioned it, they're like, yeah, we've done things with Libertas before. And then they said, where did you go? And I told them, and it was in Vienna, Austria. And they're like, oh, man, we forgot all about that this year. Because apparently they participate in that as well. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. How big is this problem of human trafficking? Well, there's an estimated 49.6 million human trafficking victims today, right frickin' now as you're listening to this show. And of those, approximately 12 million are children. So 1 out of every 4 human trafficking victim is a child. That right there it makes me sick to my stomach. And of those victims, 70% are female. Where am I getting these stats? A lot of them I get off of Tyler's website at Libertas International. Currently, the human trafficking business generates an estimated $236 billion a year. Right there explains why that crime is so active. Okay, because of the money, because of the greed that goes on out there, the evil people that are on this world. In the last 10 years, human trafficking has increased by 436% in 10 years. And it's one of the largest criminal economies in the world. You think that's not going to touch you or your family? Ask Natasha Herzig. She was from a well-to-do family. She thought somebody was offering her a job and they ended up kidnapping her. It's just like the drug problems we have here. We got to get more involved, right? Everybody needs to get involved in this. That's why it's been such a big deal here on the Game of Crimes podcast. I'm not the one doing the undercover. I'm not the one going out there and rescuing the victims. I'm trying to bring awareness. I'll support Tyler, Schwab, Libertas International, Aerial Recovery, all the other human trafficking organizations that are out there of people who are dedicating their life to helping those victims, to serving their fellow man in an unofficial capacity. Tyler, let me ask you, man, when you're investigating a human or you're trying to rescue a victim, let's say in Colombia, how much legal authority do you have to do that? Are you sworn by the Colombian government to go out and do this job?
No, I have zero legal authority. No, yeah. I mean, I'm not law enforcement. I'm not a cop. Honestly, like we're just there to assist in whatever we can. And more than anything, just helping these survivors rebuild their lives. And, it's the role. I mean, we all pay taxes for the role for the government to investigate those crimes and to do their job. And if there's a way that we can assist in that, whatever it may be, we stand willing to do so. But yeah, none of us are pensioned. None of us have health insurance. Like none of us have any legal authority. Like honestly, it's just a group of people that come together because they want to see, I don't even know if they want to save the world per se. They don't want to save the world. They want to save a city. They just want to be someone that someone can count on when they most need it. And that's what we are at Libertas International. Is like when you need us most, like we are there to support you, whatever you may need.
So these folks have chosen to volunteer their lives, their safety, to help people they don't even know. Man, I'm so dang proud of you, brother. It just,
thanks, man.
Every time we talk, every time we text, the time we got to meet together there in San Diego, it's a treat. It truly is a treat. And sometimes we're just texting back and forth about stupid things. But hey, he's a young man. I'm an old man. Men never grow up. If you didn't know that.
Dude, Steve, you keep saying you're old, but I'm not seeing it, man. I think you look great.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I'm not sending you a check. I'll tell you that. I appreciate the compliment, though. Why did you pick? We've covered this before, but just to catch everybody up a little bit. Why did you pick Medellín, Colombia to base Libertas? What was the attraction there when you mentioned earlier that you're in the Dominican Republic, and what you did mention for those that don't know, you did your missionary time with your church down in the Dominican Republic for 2 years.
Yeah, I picked Medellín because it's a beautiful place, the land of eternal spring. It's Colombia, it's a place I've been to a long time, but just seeing the situation there with the amount of children who were being exploited, the amount of traffickers in the area, the amount of Americans able to travel down there to take advantage of someone's vulnerability down there. Like it was something that I was just really impacted by. And I'm honestly like, I went down there for the first time, I think in 2022, 2021. I don't remember exactly when I went down to Medellín for the first time. But the city's actually gotten a lot better. I mean, there's still tons of human trafficking. There's still tons of work needs to be done. There's tons and tons and tons of it. But the government now, because of these cases that have happened, especially with the one involving the young lady that went with you to Vienna, like the trafficker in that case, a pharmacist from Florida, he received a life sentence, which was really the kind of a landmark case when it comes to like sex tourism and exploitation in tourism and travel and all these different things. And to where like the potential presidential candidates for the election that's coming are talking about this. There's safeguards put in place in the airport to where if you fly into Colombia, like they'll stop you and like kind of ask what's your purpose of your visit. And if they think you're a sex tourist, they will send your ass back. They will send you back to Peru or the United States or Mexico, like wherever it's from. I think the numbers this year was like over 150 foreigners were sent back because they were suspected of being sex tourists. And yeah, so they're taking an active role. Like there's an attempt to invest more like in victim services that are coming from the government. And so, you know, we've seen even changes in the city. Like obviously there's so much more that needs to be done, but, it's cool to just see the impact that we've had to where because in the end, like Libertas can only take it so far. Like there needs to be involvement from presidential candidates, senators, congressmen, activists that are Colombian based that really take that baton and then just keep going with it. And I think it's happening. So I'm proud to have been a small part of just seeing that change in Colombia, specifically that city too, the city of Medellín.
Brother, you know, in those people's lives that you've saved, you think that's a small part? I mean, you gave them their life back.
They do give me too much credit, though, specifically the one that goes to the United Nations. Like, she gives me way too much credit for like what was done for her. But she took the help that we was given. She invested in herself. She knew what she wanted. She stood up to the trafficker in court and said her piece and moved the whole courtroom and all these different things. So, I mean, I'm happy to play this small part that you talked about. But in the end, like, even still, I think some of the survivors, some of the partners, like, give me way too much credit because it's them that really makes this thing go, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, you think what you think, want to think here, and I'll think what's right.
That sounds good.
Good thing we're friends, or else you hang up on me.
Never.
You know, one thing that you touched on, and I failed to mention when I was going over those stats, is the United States leads the world in perverts. That's a wonderful reputation, isn't it? We lead the world in the consumption of illegal narcotics, and now we lead the world in the number of perverts that are going out exploiting these children and other victims around the world. And even here in the United States, all 50 states and all U.S. territories have documented events involving human trafficking. So don't think that you're in a safe place, even Wyoming, you know, where things don't happen. Because I was looking at your website, Tyler, and read an article about an individual up in Wyoming that got sentenced. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
So you spend a lot of time working in Colombia, but you do work in other rescues in other countries as well, right?
Yeah, we've supported cases, I believe in like 15 or 16 different countries, Peru, Guatemala. We had one in Ukraine. We had one in Afghanistan, actually. We had one in Afghanistan last year. How did I forget about that case? Yeah, we had this girl in Afghanistan that was just being horrifically abused by the Taliban. And this kind of came by accident. Like the case last year, I had a friend that was a refugee from Afghanistan living here in the States, and I'd met her 10 years ago. But last year, you know, I just wanted to connect with people more and just, you know, you never know when your clock's going to hit midnight. And so I just reached out to like 10 different people, like, hey, I want to connect with you. I'll buy you dinner, whatever, and just connect. And so I talked with this girl, and we had a really nice dinner. I drove out to wherever she was living, and we had lunch and stuff. And I was driving back, and she called me, and she was crying, and she was like, hey, I wanted to talk to you about dinner, but I didn't have, you know, the whatever to do it. So, but I can't get it out of my head, and I just want to ask your help. And So she was like, it's my sister. My sister lives in, Taliban controlled Afghanistan currently. And she was raped by the Taliban. It left her in a wheelchair. She needs medical care in a different country to just repair the damage it was done to her, and hopefully she can walk again. And at that point, I'm just like, how do you say no to like that kind of ask? I've never done any work in Afghanistan. I have no idea other than like just what I just described, like how the politics and how the culture of Afghanistan works. But I said yes. I was like, yeah, let's see if we can help you out. And so me and her worked together. We raised some money. We coordinated with different whoever's to eventually it led to her rescue. She was able to escape the Taliban. And when the Taliban found out she was trying to leave, they tried to kill her again and tried to kill her whole family. So it was a really just hairy couple months. And but we got her out. She's in a different place in the Middle East, and she's got the care. She's now living the life that a 16-year-old kid should live in a semi-stable place in the Middle East. But I never thought that Libertas would ever reach Afghanistan, and we did. And because of that like person-centered approach and just being like, I maybe can't save Afghanistan as a whole, not even Kabul or Islamabad or wherever, but like this one person sitting right in front of me. Let's do all we can do to make sure that you are okay and that you can be free of the situation that you're in. And we're able to do that. So Afghanistan's a country that we worked in, and then we've really expanded our cases here in the United States too. Like like you said, like we are a hub for pervs. A lot of pervs come from here. A lot of pervs live here and abuse who they have access to. And then, a lot of people have come here vulnerable. Like we have a family not very far to where I live that was held captive by the cartel for 3 months before they were able to get into the United States as victims of abuse and asylum and ask for asylum and all these different things. And even now, like living here, like they were approached on TikTok by pervs that live here. And it just sucks, like it's not bad enough that you're held captive by the cartel in Juarez for 3 months. Then you come here, a place where you were seeking safety, and there's just predators online. There's predators on Facebook and TikTok and all these different things. And so we've even expanded our cases here in the United States too, just looking to help out survivors and enforcement whenever we can.
Well, the thing that I really admire about you is here's somebody with a connection in Afghanistan. I have a hard time spelling Afghanistan, but you didn't say no. You said, yeah, let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
That's what heroes do, man.
Well, I wanted to say no. Like, don't get me wrong. I did want to say no because it was, you just can't, the way my mom raised me, look like your faith, look at yourself in the mirror. Like the little girl I was telling you about that tried to take her own life, like at her birthday party, she was very sweet and she gave this nice speech and she thanked me for helping just keep her on the planet for another year. And I was telling my coworker, I was like, she's got to stop saying stuff like that. Like she's got to stop saying stuff like that. Cause it makes me feel, all blushy and stuff. And it's, walking through that valley with these people, like it's not easy. And sometimes it's so much easier to say no, but in the end, how do you hear a story like what happened in Afghanistan with that girl and be like, man, I'm sorry, good luck. Like if you have it in your ability to help, like,
right.
I kind of feel like the way my mom raised me, the way you believe in just the people, just as a good human being, if you have the means to help and you can. So that's how it happened. God bless you, brother. I love Thanks, it. Steve.
I love it. You folks too, you'll see on the screen here, there's a national hotline here in the United States for human trafficking. It's called the National Human Trafficking Hotline. You see the number there, 888-373-7888. You can text 233-733 and contact them that way. You see the website on there, humantraffickinghotline.org. There's somebody on that line 24/7. The calls are confidential. You can look at their website and they'll show you the statistics. They're getting hundreds of thousands of contacts. That's how prevalent it is here just in the United States. Okay. So, if you're seeing this and you're needing help, there you go. If you're seeing this and want to know more, check out their website. Check out libertasinternational.org. Just want to throw that in there. This is just the right thing to do. That's why we spend so much time here on Game of Crimes. I'm not taking glory for anything. I just want to bring awareness to the issue. And then I want you to meet the fantastic people that are dedicating their lives to helping others that they don't know in countries that, like I said, it's kind of hard to spell some of the names of some of the countries they go to. You have been outside of Colombia now for how long?
Year and a half, I think. Year and a half. Coming up on 2 years. Be 2 years.
And why is that? Why haven't you been back?
Oh man, it's funny. Like it's not funny. It's not a funny story, but it's no one ever tells you the cost of doing good. It's really fun to what was like UN's not so fun, but it's really fun to like be interviewed by all these different people and have people tell you all these different things and stuff like that. But you were messing with a criminal enterprise. We're dealing with very bad people. And there's one thing I've learned about bad people is that they very rarely, if ever, take responsibility for what they do. And they will always justify their behavior with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like whatever. Like I'm sure you know better than anybody dealing with the people that you've dealt with, the reasons that people justify their behavior. And so, it's just, I guess, long story short, it's just safer for me because of the work that I do to be not in Colombia at the current time. And honestly, like, I don't know if I'll ever, I don't even want to verbalize it, but who knows if I'll ever go back and stuff like that. And I'm just thankful I'm still able to do the good that I can do, not being physically present with the people down there. But yeah, there is a cost, and not a financial cost. There's a cost to doing good that nobody told me when I first got into this. And if they told me, I don't know if I would have made the same decision. I hope I would have, but I probably wouldn't have. But I mean, I'm speaking to the choir with a lot of like your guests on here that like if we're soldiers in Afghanistan, that fought the drug wars in Colombia, they've done all these different things. Like when you mess with bad people, there is a cost to doing good. And it's not always evident what that cost will be, but yeah, there is definitely a cost.
Yeah. If what I'm getting ready to say, if you want me to cut it out, you tell me and I will. He can't go back because of death threats. His life is in jeopardy repeatedly. That he shows his face down there, they're going to kill him because they've been so successful. And that's what light does when you bring it to darkness. They don't know what to do, so they try to extinguish that light. It's phenomenal. Can you tell us briefly about the time when you guys were having a party and you got, or some of the former victims got messages on their phones, and what happened to that young girl?
Yeah, I can tell that story. It's so funny. Like I've had this book written for 5 years, and it's a book that I wrote to kind of put my story out there and a couple of the stories that are most impactful. And I haven't had, like, it's tough for me to like revisit it, like when I go to edit and stuff, because some of the stories are so, like intense for me. And then it's been sitting in my Google Docs for like 5 years. I told myself last year, I'm going to put it out last year. I just didn't put it out. And so we'll see if I ever put it out, but this story is in that book, and it's a story. It was pretty early on, like in my anti-human trafficking journey. And I was working with a really awesome ministry, Christian ministry, that what they do is they go to the red light district in Guatemala, just a hellhole. It's called La Linea. And it's just this old train track as far as the eye can see, with these shacks just as far as the eye can see, with women and children standing outside of them, and people run back and forth. It's controlled by the Mara Salvatrucha gang, the MS-13 gang. And what we would do is we would go and we'd offer hot dogs and food and water. Some of the women had their little babies like inside these little shacks, so they'd be abused like with their little babies there because they couldn't afford like daycare and stuff. And we would just go there and we just offer, we're like, look, there's this program. It's 10 weeks of like business training, mental health therapy, education. And at the end, like, it's just a way for you to leave this life. And for us, like with this specific ministry, the goal wasn't to put all these MS guys in jail. The goal wasn't to, bring in the police and all these different things, because a lot of the women that we were working with were adults. And like, honestly, like one of the saddest things that I'd ever seen in my life on that on that godforsaken train track was this lady who was maybe 69 years old and still there. And I was talking to her and I was like, why are you here? Why? And she was like, they abused me. Like my mom and dad, these people in my neighborhood, they abused me when I was like 7 years old, and it continued until I was 18. And in the 18, like, what else am I good for? So I've been on these train tracks every day since the day I turned 18 years old. And I'm just like, what a life that this woman has lived, just of exploitation well before she was 18 years old. And anyway, it's just a hellhole of a place. So we offer the help to these women and these kids and these girls, and they come and they go through this program. The program's like not easy, obviously. And when they're done, like they get to like dress up. We have this big old graduation party. They have this massive party with food and celebration, certificates, and we do that for just to celebrate, obviously, because we love food, we love company, we all of these things. But a lot of these women have kids too. And one of my favorite things was just seeing how proud these kids are of their moms. They're dressed like just these princesses in their mid 30s, early 20s, like whatever. And some of them like in their 40s and 50s, having a new life, feeling that feeling of pride. I talked to one girl, like just going back to the Christian theme. This girl's about as Christian as you could be. And she was 14 and she was there for her mom's graduation. I was like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she was like, well, I used to want to be like a flight attendant or whatever. But she's like, now I want to be a Christian worship leader, because she was like, I was in the shack with my mom for the years that my mom was being sold. And she was like, I used to pray to God that something would take her out of this. And she was like, and now that something has, I just want to be a worship leader to give praise to God for the rest of my life. And I was like, who are this 14-year-old kid? Like, why are you like, that's such like a profound spiritual thought. Like when I was 14, I would have never have thought anything close to that. And so there's like the parties, those parties for those celebrations were just so beautiful, because you see the pride in the kids with their moms and stuff. But one party, went bad. One party we were there, and there's only so much resources and so much room for a specific amount of people at any given time. Like as good as the program is across the world, there's always limited space because of just resources. Even some of the best programs in the world, like Chad and Damien's, like their program is one of the best. And I'm sure that they would tell you too, there's only this much room for any amount of survivors at any given time. Like same with Libertas. And so we had a wait list. We had a wait list of what was going of the people that wanted to come into our program. And about halfway through the graduation, our phones started to go off. Mine included. Mine went off too, but it wasn't the first one that went off. The other women that were graduating, their phones started to go off. And like in Latin America, no one puts their phone on silent. So you would just hear this ding, 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 ding as the WhatsApp notifications come through. And then you would hear just like, it's just such an eerie experience to just this celebration turned into like this situation of horror. Like half the women screamed, half of them like gasped, half of them sobbed. And we're like, what the hell just happened? And then mine went off and I got the picture too. The picture was of one of the women that was on the wait list to come into the program maybe in 2 weeks, because this program, it was you got it hard for 3 months. You take 2 weeks off so the staff can kind of rest and recuperate, and then you come back and you do it again. So she was 2 weeks away from freedom, just 2 weeks. The picture that we got was a picture of her dressed in clothes like you would expect someone that's being exploited to be dressed in, very, very little clothing. And she was dead in the street with a bullet hole to her brain and just covered in a pool of blood. And we all know who she was because we had met her and we were waiting for her to come into the program. And one of the women got a message from one of the guys, one of the traffickers, that said, these are the consequences if you look to leave. And for us, like, even still, like I go back and forth on that, like a lot in my head of like, what's better, like being dead or being serially raped for 40 years? Like, I don't know. And so like that experience as a whole, like it was very scary to me, because that was really the first time that a trafficker and an abuser had ever like come in that way, like so aggressively. And it cost the life of this person and like this, and like us as like a program. And like, we weren't the ones managing the program. We were just partnering with an existing agency. But like, that was a very, I guess, humbling and scary and reflective experience. Cause like, those are the consequences of doing good that like no one talks about. And we continue to fill the program. We continue to like stand firm and wanting to help these women leave this life. But you know, these traffickers, these abusers, like they go to very extreme lengths to protect their property, their merchandise, the people that they're exploiting, people that they're abusing, this lifestyle. And that was really my first real encounter to what these evil people are capable of. I mean, if you're capable of like selling a child and abusing a child, you're capable of whatever type of crime.
Jeez. It's just, I don't even know what to say. It's horrific. I keep using that word, but I can't think of a stronger word without cursing. I just say all these people, all they want is just a life. You know, they're not asking for anything special. They're not asking for a handout. They just want a life of safety. I think they want a life where they probably have a roof over their head, some running water. They're not asking for the world. But then you've got these evil demons that walk around on our earth that just exploit and take advantage of the poorest of the poor, of the weakest of the weak. You know, and you just know someday they're going to have to atone and answer for all their actions. And holy cow.
Yeah. And like your journey too, like that's why I first reached out to you as far as like organized crime. Like it's an organized crime group that like really has an issue with me. But it's also like these organized crime groups, like the MS-13 that killed that girl, the narco traffickers. I don't know which branch it was, but like held our little family captive for that long. And then the Taliban, like these people are not just like your run of the mill pedophile that lives down the road. Like these people, like they are violent, they have influence, they have cash. And so I know I've told you this before, but that's why I'm so grateful for like your mentorship and your friendship, because you've done it. You're like an OG, like in this, you know, and none of these guys got more cash than Pablo Escobar, and none of these guys, well, I won't say what I was going to say, but I say they have blown up planes. Like they have blown up planes, but like, you know, Escobar, he did that and all these different things. And so like, you know, just thank you for your mentorship and your friendship, because I think you better than anybody knows how to kind of manage these type of situations.
Well, thank you for saying that. And if I can offer a little bright spot in your life, man, I'll always be here for you. You know, and I got to take a break here. I tell you what, it's, and I've heard that story before. It's just so disheartening that there are people in our world that are like that. But ladies and gentlemen, Tyler's agreed to come back, so we're going to have him on tomorrow's episode as well, because we want to talk about the United Nations and what they do with these non-government organizations, what we call NGOs, and which that's what Libertas is an NGO, as well as Area Recovery and some of these other organizations that we're discussing on here. So come back tomorrow. I don't. There will be some brighter spots. We're going to talk about some of these jackasses that need to go to prison, going to prison. And to me, that's a bright spot. So, Tyler, thank you for joining us here today, brother. And thank you for reliving some of this. I know it can't be easy.
My pleasure, Steve. With you, I know I'm in a safe place, so I'm always with you.
All right, brother. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, in the meantime, until you come back tomorrow, because you got to come back and listen to the second part of this interview, stay safe out there. God bless.